The MacBook is about to change in a big way, because in Apple's almost 40-year history of making laptops, they've never made a laptop like this before. Okay, this may look like a regular MacBook, but it's not how it looks or not about a revolutionary new feature. It's about this. Yeah, a $600 laptop. For the entire history of Apple making laptops, all the way back to the days of PowerBooks or iBooks or plastic MacBooks, Apple has never released a laptop that retailed for lower than $1,000. Well, technically $999. But the more you think about it, the more it is hard to believe that for a company that has multiple product lineups with more affordable options for the iPad, the Apple Watch, and even the iPhone, Apple has never released a MacBook aimed at a budget-oriented consumer. Now stay with me here because I have a lot to tell you about the details of this new MacBook, what features it will have, so you can understand why this move is such a big deal and why this is so important for Apple. So far, leaks have described this new MacBook in a few ways. First of all, it will keep the premium aluminum design, so Apple is not cheaping out here. They are not introducing a crappy plastic laptop that creaks even if you look at it wrong, and it should have a similar design to something like the existing MacBook Air. This new cheaper MacBook is even rumored to borrow some inspiration from products like the entry-level iPad and may ship in the same exact colors with a yellow, pink, blue, and silver option. And design-wise, you might even expect a carbon copy of the MacBook Air, or even Apple just bringing back the old MacBook Air design that was cheaper to produce. But no, based on the leaks, it sounds like Apple is planning a whole new design for this MacBook. Primarily, the biggest design detail we have is that the new MacBook will have a 12.9-inch display, a display size that Apple has never used for a MacBook before. Now, a smaller display isn't necessarily a downgrade by itself, and I wonder if Apple is also making changes to the overall body of this MacBook to make it even smaller and lighter by design. Maybe not something as bleeding edge as this old 12-inch MacBook, but a lighter form factor that even against the current Air would feel more portable. That would be great for the type of user for this laptop, a user that is primarily a student or a business user, someone that needs to carry their laptop around with them, and someone that is looking at a laptop for an affordable price point. Of course, that won't be the only change. Apple is also rumored to include just a regular USB-C port, not the faster Thunderbolt ports you can find on other Macs. I also think there's probably a good chance that this MacBook will have just a single USB-C port, just like this 12-inch MacBook did. So really, when we talk about the design, there's not much Apple is changing here to really make this feel like a cheaper MacBook. But there is one area of cost cutting that is going to make up for that difference. Although this may not be as big of a deal as you think, because Apple is doing something really smart here. However, we all know the first thing that Apple usually cuts on, and that is storage capacity. And if you've been following the channel, you already know I use Clean My Mac as the first step to scan my Mac for unused files and system junk. However, I've been having a big problem recently, and that is that I store more and more files in the cloud. I mean, I literally have 8 terabytes of iCloud storage, and look at how much of it I'm using. And I don't have a good way to go through and organize those cloud files until now with Clean My Mac's new cloud cleanup feature. This connects to my cloud accounts like iCloud, OneDrive, and Google Drive, and then scans those cloud locations just like it locally scans my Mac to find large files taking up cloud storage space. And look at this, I found a 1.2 gigabyte file from a video review I did in 2016, something I don't really need anymore, just sitting there taking up precious cloud space. And it's so easy to manage my cloud and local storage with the Space Lens feature. It shows me a detailed map of exactly how my storage is being used and where the biggest files are located, letting me easily manage and review my storage. Clean My Mac's cloud cleanup just lets me lock in and choose what files stay and what files go, helping me save money so I don't have to upgrade to a 16 terabyte iCloud plan. Of course, Clean My Mac also comes with everything built in to keep your Mac running like new, with smart care scans, disk cleanups, their Moonlock anti-malware engine, and a helpful assistant that can clear memory leaks and help you manage your MacBook's battery. To get tidy today, try 7 days free and use my code GregsGadgets for 20% off, and thank you to Clean My Mac for sponsoring this video. Now, besides storage and ports, the biggest cost-cutting measure isn't really gonna come from any of this, or it isn't even gonna come from the design of what this 12.9-inch MacBook looks like. The real cost-cutting measure is going to come down to the chip powering this Mac. And like I said, Apple is doing something rather smart here. By now, we're all pretty much aware of the revolution that was Apple replacing Intel with their own custom Apple silicon chips. Even the first M1 Macs that were shipped were fast, reliable, had amazing battery life, and by every metric, these Apple silicon Macs were better than the Intel Macs they replaced. Unless you needed to fry an egg on the top of your laptop, then that was a bit of a downgrade. And we are now on the 4th generation of these Apple silicon chips, so you might expect Apple just to put in an older M1 or M2 chip into this new Mac, because it's not like Apple can go any lower here, unless they can. Yes, one of the most interesting rumors about this new MacBook is that Apple is planning to use not an M series chip, not a Mac chip, but an iPhone chip. More specifically, the A18 Pro chip, the same chip that they are currently using to power the iPhone 16 Pro. And at first, you may think the idea of an iPhone chip powering a Mac is a terrible idea, but it actually isn't. Like, even if you have an M1 Mac today, it still runs incredibly well. And the A18 Pro in single-core CPU performance is actually ahead of every M series Mac, well, except of course for the M4 Mac. In multi-core CPU performance, the A18 Pro is actually in between the performance of an M1 and an M2 chip, and when we're talking about laptops in the $600 price range, the A18 Pro chip is likely to be faster than most, if not all of those budget-oriented laptops. The weakest area for this chip would be in GPU performance, but even then, you're still getting about the same raw scores as an M1 chip, and the A18 Pro brings alongside a huge advantage with it that would even surpass what Apple was able to achieve with the initial Apple silicon chips: power efficiency. Yeah, these chips are primarily designed for iPhones with incredibly small batteries compared to laptops. And imagine now that same iPhone chip powering a full-blown laptop. It means that Apple can either ship a much smaller battery in the MacBook and actually save on weight, making it a lighter weight MacBook like I kind of theorized, or they could ship the same size battery in those MacBooks and give you a laptop with an insane amount of power and an insane amount of battery life. Like 24 hours or more probably. And I think the best evidence that we have that this strategy will work is that when Apple was testing the first Apple Silicon Macs, don't forget, they shipped a special Mac Mini to developers that was powered by an iPad chip, the A12Z chip. And even though those special developer Macs were never released to customers, by many accounts, those Macs ran pretty well at the time, if not better than the Intel Mac Minis that already existed, all powered by now a 6-year-old iPad chip. Better yet, if this is the biggest cost-cutting measure, it's the one that won't matter to most users, especially in this price range. The A18 Pro would perform great for any basic tasks like web browsing, emails, watching videos, video calls, and it will still pack enough horsepower for even some more demanding tasks. If it can really keep up with an M2 chip, so video editing, photo editing, and even a cheaper machine for students learning how to code. I mean, we already have enough evidence that this chip is going to run well in this MacBook, considering the entry-level iPad runs on an A16 chip and it can already do things like video editing and music production. Anyone who is going to buy a laptop, if there is a $600 MacBook, I don't see why anyone would buy a similarly priced Windows machine. Like, this thing is going to dominate the laptop industry. It is going to be a big disruptor, specifically in the education market. Apple is well known for its educational discount, and a $600 consumer MacBook would likely retail for $500 on their education site, making this the go-to laptop for any student. Now, yes, while Apple will have its priorities, priority number one for this laptop should be hitting that $600 price point. But I also hope Apple goes above and beyond what we expect from them, because based on the build, specs, and power requirements for this A18 MacBook, they can give us more than just a stripped-down MacBook Air. This is actually Apple's chance to get the 12-inch MacBook right, something that's ultra lightweight, but still capable, and most importantly, affordable. This laptop would actually be worthy of the name MacBook. And we won't have to wait too much longer to see what they do with it, because the rumors say that this 12.9-inch MacBook is already on the manufacturing line, and with a planned release for as soon as the end of this year. I would wager we may even see this as early as October or November in just a few months. But let me know, what do you think of the idea of a low-cost MacBook? Is this something that you're interested in? Or do you think that the M1 MacBooks are low-cost enough already? Or do you think a $600 MacBook will be too stripped down and too compromised to actually be worth it? I really want to hear your opinion on this because I think this is a very interesting product. But hey, you know what to do. If you found the video helpful or informative, give me a like. And as always, if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll catch you all in the next one. And eventually, we'll be talking about a $600 MacBook. What a time to be alive.